number before football season. Would love for you to jump in the boat and help us out. Jay Meadows continues to revamp it and reboot it. We're doing record numbers on the YouTube channel. Search Out of Bounds Sports and hit that subscribe button for us. And I thank you, but Jackson definitely thanks you because he spends hundreds and hundreds of hours on it to get it where it needs to be. We're excited about football season, but we're talking a little baseball here. This is a big baseball state. Skip Bertman coached at LSU. He won 5 national titles, and he's one of the most successful coaches in North America in the history of sports, but in collegiate athletics, he's up there. I mean, if you wanted to put him on the Mount Rushmore, you could, regardless of sport, when you win 5 national titles in baseball, you know, from 1991 to 2000, and you go to 11 College World Series, and then all the MLB players that have gone through LSU and what they did at Alex Box and the impact that he has had on college baseball. Skip Bertman passes away over the weekend, and he invented modern college baseball as entertainment. He understood the entertainment component, and he wasn't as locked in and focused as he was on building a championship program, which meant year in, year out, they always had a chance, right? Yeah, because once he got there in 84 and got it up and running just a few years later, and again, Ben McDonald, Mike Bianco, among many others in the late 80s, really got it going. And then in the 90s, they completely dominated college baseball. Dominated. When they showed up, you knew who the biggest, the big dog was. And it was the LSU Tigers. And it was at a time when we were also, we were good in football, but not necessarily dominating. Okay, like LSU was a total roller coaster in the 70s, 80s, and 90s in football. Bama, total lost their way post Paul Bear Bryant, 1982. Then they get Gene Stallings plugged in the early 90s, and then, of course, he wins it in 92, but then they go off the grid for years, a decade plus before getting it right. Well, 15 plus years, actually, before Saban comes in. As far as basketball, we were, we had some Rupp and Kentucky were rolling coming out of World War II. But then, Joe B. Hall couldn't keep that going. So in basketball, we would have little spurts. But then, of course, I've talked about this. Pitino and Nolan totally changed the game. Right around the same time as Spurrier changed the game in football. But Bertman had already changed the game and would win more titles than any of them. Yeah, Nolan got one, and he was great. Yes, Ricky P. at Kentucky, Pitino got one, and he was great. And yes, Spurrier got one, and he was great. Right? I mean, they are. But Bertman won 5 national championships from 91 to 2000. And he did it by being a ferocious and relentless recruiter, but then the weight room and again, he believed in the visualization part and self-actualization. I mean, he talked about it all the time. I mean, Drew Brees has talked about it. Tom Brady has talked about how you have to visualize it, manifest it to get there. Skip Bertman did that with his players all the time. We will start here, but we will think about what it's going to be like to dogpile in Omaha. That is our goal. That is the only goal that we have. It's not anything else. We're not going to talk about a bunch of other nonsense. We're here to win national championships, and he did. And he laid such a foundation and built so much momentum. Look where they are today. 20-something years later, after he stepped down to be the athletic director at LSU, LSU still wins big in baseball. Maneri got 1, Jay Johnson got 2. Right?
Yeah. All because of the blueprint that was laid out before them.
Is he the most underrated great coach in all of college sports history?
Gotta be.
He built Alex Box into a circus in a good way. fireworks, music, sellout. You know, he would walk through the stands. He would be, you could see him underneath walking through before the game for years. That's what college baseball was. You may go get a Coca-Cola and some nachos in 1986 at an LSU baseball game, and Bertman would be talking to who was serving you that Coke because they were friends and they were in Rotary together or whatever.
Crazy.
That's what SEC sports was long before all the money and all the cameras and the lights and the action and the big stuff. He connected with people. He went all around town and all around the area to connect with people. Come see it. He understood that it should be a circus.
Right.
That's a good thing. And that music and a circus and fireworks, of course, minor league baseball, right? I mean, this is where he's pulling this stuff from. You all lived it with the Jackson Mets starting in 1980, 81, 82. I mean, come on. We didn't have a lot of entertainment in the Sun Belt. Or you could argue much coast to coast. Yeah. It was a big deal. You go out to a college baseball game or a minor league baseball game, you got fireworks, hot dog, and somebody's running around on some outfit on the field. Bertman got it. It's entertainment. I need people to come here, and maybe they don't just want to watch baseball for 9 innings, so let's do some other things. I'm a promoter. I'm a coach. We need to do car washes. We need to sell hot dogs. We need to sell blueberry muffins. Today, these guys that walk in these facilities this morning couldn't even they won't even, some of them won't even go out and shake hands with alums.
Right.
Bertman, there was never anybody that he didn't run into at a local restaurant, cafe. And of course, he was a big walker again. And you know, the lakes down by LSU that eventually grew and evolved development wise. Hey, I'm Skip Bertman. I already know you go to Death Valley. I need you to come over here to Alex Box and check out what we're doing. He did more than we can ever imagine. And then he built a dynasty. The only SEC baseball dynasty outside of Vanderbilt and Corbin. I think that's fair. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. If you consider them there.
Because Vandy, 1-2, played for
That's
two
true.
more, lost to Mississippi State and Florida, maybe someone else.
That's a dynasty.
And went to this day and age, I think it is.
That's a dynasty.
Yeah. We're powered by RPT and Rick's Pro Truck. Spraying bedliners and lift kits, 3 locations in the metro area. ricksprotruck.com.
Off the whackle. Off the whackle. Off the whackle.
Hey, Out of Bounds, ESPN 1059 The Zone. We're live in the Bank Plus studio. The show is brought to you by Farm Bureau Insurance. Bundle your auto and home and save with your local Farm Bureau Insurance agent. We'll have Tom Luganbill, National College Football Analyst with ESPN at 8:30. And then Nathan McCarty will dive in at 9:30. And the Elijah Craig barrel pick is now at Briarwood Wine and Spirits, 4949 Old Canton Road. We picked it out several months ago. It's not the one we did a couple of weeks ago. All right. That one will be here hopefully maybe before Christmas, before Taste Italian Kitchen. It obviously takes a minute. But the Elijah Craig barrel pick that we picked out months ago is hit the shelves at Briarwood Wine and Spirits. It's delicious. Elijah Craig barrel pick. You'll love it. We're going to taste it in the third hour. It's here right in time for football season and so on. So we're excited about that. Luganbill in 15 minutes. And then 9:30, Nathan will come in and we'll talk about the Elijah Craig barrel pick, which we're really excited about. And that was the one where we went last year and picked it out and had a great time up in Louisville, Kentucky, or Bardstown, as y'all know. Okay, Bowbound Straight Funk with you. We're talking Skip Bertman, kind of tying him in with Bear Bryant, Nick Saban, Rupp, Pat Summitt, Dawn Staley. There's some others that I mean, I got to put even though Spurrier doesn't have the national championships, he has 6 SEC championships. That was at a time when they were really valued and coveted. They're still a big deal, but y'all know now can you make the playoffs? Can you get in the playoffs? And it's just like the NFL. If you can get in, you don't ever know, right? You could bottle it. You may get the right matchup. Maybe the team you're playing has 1 or 2 players that are down, and then all of a sudden you're in another round or two. But when I think of Skip Bertman winning 5 national titles at LSU, and I think of Paul Bear Bryant winning 6 at Alabama, and what Saban did at both LSU and Bama, and what Pat Summitt did at Tennessee and Rupp did at Kentucky, and the list, there's others. Bertman was a promoter and a hype man and a master motivator. His players just absolutely 100% burned the ships, believed, and y'all can think this is corny, but Vince Lombardi did it, and many others. Okay, Barry Switz. They believed when they walked out on the field they were going to beat your you-know-what. I saw it in the 1980s as a kid, as a college student in the 90s, and so on. And, man, the similarities between Bertman and Saban. And I know Bertman had a little more of an outgoing personality, promoter, hype man, but still, when it came down to running a program and motivating and locked in and a championship-driven culture, Bertman and Saban, holy smokes. Think about the way LSU was not a national brand. They're now a top 5, without a doubt, in a small state. They are a top 5 national brand in collegiate athletics, to go with like Ohio State, right? And big universities that have been bigger longer, right, in the Midwest and Northeast, and have had more student enrollment, which means you have more alums and so on. And can you imagine if Bertman? Now, a little bit different. Today, the league is brutal. The first 12 teams out of 16 are loaded. Now, a lot of that is because of Bertman and Polk, okay, right? And so on. But Skip understood, and let's drop the one on counting fans. Bertman he took minor league baseball and said, I've got to inject this into and we will sell blueberry muffins. We will sell pizza. We will do car washes, and we'll do them and do them and do them because we are going to raise money for this program, and we're going to get people in the stands. This is Bertman about talking about counting fans early in his tenure and career down in LSU Baton Rouge.
I counted the people, and there were 364. But they sat in a funny way like this. They sat like this. Nobody said anything. If you didn't talk, all you heard was birds. On the PA, and you couldn't understand them, and nobody cared. And I remember distinctly hearing the aluminum bat hit the ball like you normally don't hear because of the noise at Miami. It was so quiet.
Bertman immediately put a charge into the atmosphere surrounding baseball at the box. Responding to Captain Dynamite's ad in the Sporting News, Bertman made the call not to the bullpen, but to curious fans who would respond to a World Series of promotions. Among them, Major League Baseball's San Diego Chicken. He recruited families for his fan base, utilizing summer camp for kids. His players connecting with the community in a way unfamiliar to his athletic directors with backgrounds in football and basketball.
They're not 6'10". They don't bench press 400 pounds. Like many other student athletes, they're great students. They're wonderful with people. They look like, your next door neighbor, yet they play shortstop because you don't have to be that big to play baseball. And I said, everybody will come. It's a kid's sport. It doesn't cost much. I said, Mississippi State draws 4,000 a game, 3 times. And at Miami, we drew 4,000. And Florida State does that. And the AD would say, you don't understand, Skip. You're just a coach. I get that a lot. You don't understand, Skip. You're just a coach. And I said, no, you can do this. This is a money machine. And they'd laugh.
All right, so let's walk through some of this. He was a promoter, but he understood connectivity. Did you hear what he just said? ADs and other people, football people, told us we couldn't do this. No, I'm going to go out in the community and get people to come to the game. And I'm going to do this. Y'all remember the San Diego Chicken in 1982, 84? Like, that was a big deal when it would come through Smith Wills. Bertman looked at it and said, oh, no, we'll bring him in here. People said, you can't do that. And that's what people do. Well, that's not what people did before him. He didn't give a damn. He was the ultimate hype man and promoter for a circus, which he turned into LSU baseball, which then turned into an absolute and total dynasty. And in fact, Skip Bertman was the only dynasty between, outside of Pat Summitt, between Coach Paul Bear Bryant and Nick Saban at Alabama. He built a dynasty at LSU. So he had to be the recruiter, the promoter, the hype man, the setting up the lights, lining the field, and everything else. I mean, we got coaches this day and age in the SEC, they get valeted to the door, dropped off by a graduate assistant driving them in an SUV. They couldn't fathom what guys like Skip Bertman did. Absolute legend. Tom Luganbill, national college football analyst with ESPN. Coming up next, check out our YouTube channel, Out of Bounds Sports. Back with Luganbill in a second.
Off the Wackel.
Yeah, you damn right.
Here we go. Out of bounds, ESPN 1059 The Zone.
Do I not currently have a pulse?
We're live in the Bank Plus studio. The show is driven by your next GMC Sierra truck, GMC Yukon. Check out the Denali package, FowlerGMC.com and Fowler GMC, Pearl Brandon. You can watch the show right now on YouTube. Search Out of Bounds Sports. We welcome in our friend Tom Luganbill, National College Football Analyst with ESPN. And Lugs joins us on the Farm Bureau Insurance Guest Line. All right, are you getting excited about it? I mean, do you still get the butterflies and get fired up now that we're just a couple of weeks out?
Yeah, absolutely. But I got to hit on one thing, that little soundbite you just played.
Mm-hmm.
Could any of your listeners name who that is and what happened?
No.
No?
No, that.
Oh man, come on! That's your trivia of the day now, man.
Well, I should do that. That's a great point to frame that up. You obviously cover that school, and you know who the coach, Jeff Brom from Louisville.
That's exactly right. That was Jeff Brom playing for the Orlando Rage in the 2001 XFL season, where he got hit. I thought he was dead. Like, yeah, it was one of those hits that, and when he went to the ground, he did not move. And it was one of those deals where his head was off to the side, but his face mask was pointing straight in the air.
Oh, good.
And he got absolutely clobbered. And you just played a snippet of the soundbite, but what he says in the full comment is football to its core. So if you get a chance, go to YouTube, rewatch it back, and listen to the whole thing. But yes, to answer your question, I am pumped. I just got back from Clemson, Georgia Tech, NC State, and I head to Louisville actually next weekend as my final camp tour before we get ready for the season.
Oh, that's going to be so perfect because we got Ole Miss and Louisville in Nashville week 1, which is awesome, with Brom going against Golding and Trinidad and the crew, and then Louisville's breaking in. I don't know what's going to happen there. If they're going to go with the Ohio State guy or if this West Georgia guy is going to be I don't want to compare it to Trinidad coming out of nowhere from Ferris State when Austin Simmons got hurt, but it sounds to me like there's a lot of back and forth going on here, because you mentioned earlier a month ago, Lugs, that Brom, and maybe he didn't mean to do this. They may have missed out. Who knows what happens behind the scenes. Yeah. They may have missed out on 3, 4, 5 guys, but Brom at Louisville, who plays Ole Miss week 1, he's been going with guys who have a lot of experience. Yeah. And the West Georgia guy has played, but this Ohio State guy that transferred in has not. So that's a little bit different animal for Brom in Louisville, right?
Yeah, I was really surprised about it. I asked him about it at ACC kickoff in July. He kind of skirted around it a little bit because, he went from Jack Plummer to Tyler Shuck to Miller Moss, and all of those guys were 5th or 6th year guys that had played a ton of football. And now Lincoln Kienholz, who is super athletic, really mobile, has a lot of upside, but you don't know what he's going to do. He hasn't played. And so I was just really surprised that he went that route at the quarterback position, because it's such a far deviation from what he's done the previous 3 years.
Yeah. And I wonder if he did miss out or because he has won there and he has chips and he's in, nowhere close to the hot seat. If he was looking at this like, okay, we'll take our licks as this guy gets up and running, and hopefully by game 6 or 7, he's a totally different QB this year. And then if we're able to hold on to him, then he could have a really special year for them next year. Luke?
Well, yeah, he's got multiple years of eligibility. I think that's what you're getting at is, so many of these guys are one and dones, and that's great. He's had 3 straight of them. But I think at the end of the day, too, like every program, if you asked every coach in America, like Dave Doran at NC State is going on his 3rd year with C.J. Bailey. Like, that doesn't happen. Like, you think about that. Like, you had Haynes King at Georgia Tech, had been there forever. Like, now, if a guy doesn't play, he leaves, then you don't know what's going to end up, happening with him. 4 guy transfers, and he's only got 1 year of eligibility, so there's no like long-term investment or development to create stability at the position. I think every program in America faces that challenge.
Agree. Tom Luganbill with ESPN on the Farm Bureau Insurance guest line, and he'll be wrapping up his road trip at Louisville next week. And then that next week, not week 0, but week 1, as y'all know, we have Ole Miss and Louisville in Titan Stadium in Nashville. And Ole Miss has better players, but Brom is a hell of a coach with 10-plus years at Western Kentucky and Purdue and Louisville and has won everywhere. So this may be this game could go into the second half and could get a little crazy and wild, even with Trinidad and Lacey and that Ole Miss defensive line. Okay, so Lugs, I didn't have Indiana on my bingo card this time of year last year. I recognized that they had gone to the college football playoff, but I didn't have them going undefeated, slamming the door on Alabama and Ohio State, and then beating Miami and winning the national championship. I texted you a few minutes ago with this new NIL era, and we're getting out of the Bama, Georgia, LSU, Clemson, Southern Cal, all that run, and I think it's tough to put your finger on it, but how many teams do we have out there that could win it, considering Indiana did it last year without the biggest NIL budget and as a kind of a mid-30s recruiter when you combine NIL and high school, Luke?
Are you talking about the funding and the resources to be able to be a contender? Or are you talking about talent acquisition and all of that stuff?
I think I'm talking about how many teams do we believe have a legitimate shot to win the national championship as we're a couple of weeks away from the season?
I would probably say maybe 10 to 16, somewhere in that range.
Okay.
And again, a lot of the answer to that question too, and Indiana's a great example of this, is if you have the stars align and the chips all fall where they're supposed to, and it just makes for a magical year. It's kind of like Gene Chizik at Auburn that year where everything just played the way it was supposed to. But with NIL, number one, in order to get difference maker type of players, you got to be able to compete in that realm. So from a resources standpoint, you have to say, okay, well, how many people are Georgia? How many people are LSU? How many people are Texas or Ohio State? Well, not many, right? But if you have the funding and don't necessarily have the brand, then you have the opportunity to do what Indiana did. Because you, through funding and through the acquisition of talent as a result of that funding, you now all of a sudden have the opportunity to change the narrative of what your program is, right? Because brands used to be just succeed everything.
Right.
Well, now, yes, the brand helped. It puts you in position, and obviously you're well-resourced. But, in Indiana, which everybody kind of found out after the fact last year, I don't think anybody realized they had the type of money coming in that they had. Which explains a lot, right? And so, who is that next team? I think it just depends on if the university and the institution decide that they're going to, cast their line in that lake.
And just a few years ago, it was, 2 to 6 teams max that could win it.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I remember, we were talking about, and it was like this for the first few years. We're talking about, okay, well, you expand from 4 to 8 or 4 to 12 or whatever. We end up expanding to 12, but we ended up with essentially the same teams that we all expected to be in the running or be playing for the championship. We ended up having all those same teams. It might have been a combination of 2 or 3 here and there, but that was what ended up taking place.
Tom Luganbill on the Out of Bounds Show, ESPN 105.9 The Zone. Before we went to this new model, I would say on the air for years that Notre Dame, for example, Notre Dame couldn't win it. Okay. When you and I were growing up, they were considered a power. And then they kind of left the grid or the zip code of championship level football. I know Kelly took them to the national championship in 2012, but they were embarrassed and Saban took his foot off the gas. You remember that game. And now, look at their schedule. Indiana just did it. It if you get your act together and get the right coaching and funding, which I think dozens of teams can do if they choose to do, Luke's, now it's open to damn near 30 to 50 teams. Not every year, but they have the capability if they do things the right way. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. But it comes down to the exact thing that you just said, and that is, what are you willing to put forth?
Right.
Right. And if you're willing, as a university or from a funding standpoint, whether it's a collective or booster donors and, combination of all of those sorts of things, you can't expect 11-1 results with 6-6 resources, right? And so you got to make sure you put yourself in a position. And then, of course, coaching and player evaluation and getting the right guys. I mean, I think that's the one thing, and it's easy to talk about this with Indiana. You talk about a team that went out and handpicked. It was almost like Moneyball. Like they knew exactly what they needed, what they wanted. They age and year of eligibility trumped name and ranking come out of high school. Whether you played at quarterback or didn't play at quarterback was a deciding factor on who they took. And they had taken Curtis Rourke, who'd been a 3-year starter at Ohio, Fernando Mendoza, who had started getting hot at Cal the year before, and he wasn't on a very good team, but he played a lot of football. Like, there's certain common denominators that make up the recipe for success in this era. And if you have the financial resources and you have a blueprint and a plan, you can compete and be in that top 12 to 16 conversation every year.
So I think the SEC is they'll be fine. Okay. I don't buy into this. Oh my God, they haven't won it in 3 years. The league's going to be fine. It's an adjustment. They went to 9 games. I don't necessarily agree with it, but I understand the financial impact. But I think as long as they're letting in G6 teams, which I don't agree with, but that's where we are right now. And when you catch a year like this year, Lugs, I want you to walk me through your thoughts, where Penn State has an unbelievable schedule, Indiana has an unbelievable schedule, and Notre Dame.
Yeah.
They may lose a spot here with the 9-game schedule and cannibalizing each other until we get an expanded playoffs. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. But you know what? I don't believe, the SEC not winning the title for 3 years has all that much to do with any type of scheduling or going to 9 games. I think it has to do with talent disbursement and the fact that it's almost impossible now to hoard all of the talent, right? And to keep the 2s and 3s on your roster that could be starters somewhere else. So what you've done is you've made everybody better through the transfer portal, whether that's been an unintended consequence or just the nature of what the sport has become. And so I think a lot of it is scheduling, but not so much going to 9 games. It's who you do or do not play. Like, for example, NC State has a great quarterback in CJ Bailey. I'm using them as an example because they have maybe the best schedule of anybody in the ACC. I don't think they have Miami. They don't have Louisville. They don't have SMU. And so they could be in a position where they've got this great record, but the luck of the draw fell in their favor. And that happened to Virginia last year. Virginia had the best schedule of anybody in that conference. It wasn't even close. They happened to hit on a quarterback. Boom, magic. So I think a little bit of it is just year in and year out. Do you hit on all of the right marks, or do you hit on enough of them that put you in position? Because I look at the SEC and I see, okay, maybe they haven't won the national title, but I look at their top to bottom depth, and I look at the Big Ten's top to bottom depth, and I don't think the Big Ten's very good outside of 3 or 4 teams.
Right.
I think it's very, very average. But there's this perception that it's really, really good. Now, Indiana's added to that, obviously, but you still have a lot of fledgling programs. Michigan State hasn't been what they've been. Wisconsin certainly hasn't been what they've been. We all know the struggles Nebraska has had. Iowa has basically been Iowa. Northwestern's struggled. I think it's fair to point those things out about that conference.
Tom Luganbill on the Out of Bounds Show, brought to you by your next GMC Sierra truck at FowlerGMC.com. Do you have Do you have a team that you're picking as the leader in the clubhouse? Is it Notre Dame? Is it Ohio State? Is it Georgia? Is it another team going into the season?
I think when you look at the least amount of turnover and the returning production of two teams from the 2025 year till now, you got to look at Notre Dame and Georgia. Very few defections through the portal, very few additions unless absolutely needed. Player development, established pillars and foundation within the program. Both of those teams are not spending anywhere near as much time trying to figure out the pieces of the puzzle as the vast majority of college football right now, because they don't have the roster swing. To me, that gives them advantages.
And Georgia actually, for the SEC, Georgia pulls a pretty damn good schedule. And then Notre Dame's is a cakewalk. So
there's no excuses for Notre Dame to not be at 11-1 or 12-0.
Yeah. How good do you? So for our listeners, we have SEC fans from several different schools listening right now. So they could run into Notre Dame in the playoffs if they make it. How good, in your opinion? Because we're talking Trinidad Chambliss down here, and then Arch, and then maybe a little bit of Sam Levitt and Gunner. For those that haven't watched him, how good is C.J. Carr, the quarterback at Notre Dame?
Elite. Top 5, top 10 at the worst pick in next year's draft, in my opinion. I think he's special. Now, he's more of your classic, pure, prototypical quarterback in the sense that he's going to play with his mind and his arm and his feet within the pocket. He's going to go through progressions. He's going to process quickly. He's not the pull a rabbit out of a hat, create when things break down and make a bunch of sandlot plays. That's not who he is. He's timing, precision, accuracy. Arm talent is fantastic. I think he's really, really good.
Okay. And so you have the elite group is C.J. Carr, Dante Moore, Trinidad Chambliss, C.J. Bailey, Arch.
Yeah. Maybe the kid at USC, Maivea.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
He's really good. And then I want to wait and see on guys like Mateer and Sam Levitt to, number one, see if they can stay healthy. That's number one. And see if they can play clean football. And then, you got guys like Josh Hoover now at Indiana, who was spectacular at TC, although he turns the ball over a lot. I'm a little worried about that because that's one thing Indiana does not do. They do not beat themselves and they don't turn the ball over. But I think he's a really good player, and he's played a ton of football. And then the guy that's replacing him at TCU threw like 45 touchdowns to 10 interceptions as a starting quarterback at Harvard for the last 2 years. So we'll see how he makes the jump from the FCS to TCU. He played a really, really good player. So it'll be Byron Brown's another one. Great production at USF. How does he transition to Auburn? I think that's going to be fun to watch. So there's going to be some guys. It'll be interesting to see who emerges this fall.
All right, for our listeners, Luke's mentioned Mateer. Ole Miss will play them again this year, and they go back to Oklahoma, just the way the scheduling went. And he mentioned Sam Levitt, who was in Starkville last year. Y'all remember that game. And Ole Miss and Mississippi State will play Levitt, and then Mississippi State will host Auburn this year, and they'll play Byron Brown. So just to give you an idea as far as connecting the dots on what quarterbacks you will see. If you go Georgia 1 in the SEC, and I agree with returning starters and how they've recruited and retention.
Yeah.
Who's the second team for you? Is it LSU, Texas, Bama, or someone else?
I think it would be Texas right now. And then I think you can lump LSU, Alabama, all those teams, Ole Miss kind of together. We don't know on Florida yet. We don't know, which South Carolina team is going to show up. So I would probably say Texas. I think Texas on offense could end up being like having a spectacular, defining season on offense.
Yeah, they need to bounce back. They've struggled, haven't they, the last couple of years on the offensive side of football?
The last 6 or 7 weeks of last season, they were on fire. So if Arch Manning's progression picks up where he left off, with the additions they made on offense, Hollywood Smothers at running back, Cam Coleman at wide out, like they've got some real weapons.
Ole Miss and Mississippi State play back-to-back weekends at Texas in late October. So, and Arch Manning, I still can't believe Mississippi State was up 17 points in the fourth quarter. Now that was earlier in the year, right? This is before Luganville referencing around game 6 or 7 when they started to figure it out. Even Sark talked about it this summer that he missed, and they got their ducks in a row and then started rolling. Tom Luganville on the Out of Bounds show, ESPN 105.9 The Zone. Okay, if there's a two names we're not talking about because there's just so many big names in the league and they've been kind of tucked away, but they've proven that they can win. And that's Heupel at Tennessee and Elko at A&M. Do you think that they could sneak up on some people?
Yeah, I think A&M is going to be very good. I think Tennessee is going to depend on if they end up playing with a true freshman quarterback. They could end up, lining up with Faison Brandon, a true freshman, and they got to play on the road at Georgia Tech week 2. So that would be interesting. I think Josh Heupel's done a great job. Mike Elko's done a great job. I don't think there's any reason why those two teams shouldn't be playoff contenders.
Wow, I didn't realize that Tennessee goes to Georgia Tech. Be interesting to see what Tech can do without Haynes King and Faulkner.
Oh yeah. I know it.
Haynes King is one of my favorite players the last few years in college football. Talking about like a reboot and redemption story coming out of A&M and having a great career at Tech. Of course, you started there too, and I mean he was ridiculous, ton of fun to watch. He may make some noise with the Carolina Panthers.
Yeah,
Bryce Young
no
and
question.
Bryce Young and them.
Yeah.
All right. So where are you headed this week?
I got College Football Live on Thursday and Friday. Then I head to Louisville over the weekend for their camp tour. And then I don't have a game on week 0, but I open up with Mississippi State week 1.
Oh, you're going to be in Starkville, MSU?
Yeah, so in Louisiana Monroe, yeah.
Okay, so Kamario Taylor's somewhat, he started a couple of games at the end, but people are all fired up about the 6'4", 230-pound true sophomore out of Noxubee County, which is Jeffrey Simmons, among others. That program beats people damn near every Friday night. So, all right, this is going to be great. We're going to be able to do even more of a deep dive with Lugs on Louisville as we get ready for week 1, Ole Miss and Louisville. Tom Luganville, have a great week. Thank you, buddy.
Will do, man. Thank you, bud.
That was great. Luganville talking quarterbacks. How many teams could win a national championship? He thinks up to 12 to 16 teams now in this new era and model of NIL and portal, and where you can steal talent from the big boys and the big brands and the powers. But he likes Georgia and Notre Dame. The retention, who they have coming back, and can't wait to see what plays out. We're live in the Bank Plus studio, Out of Bounds, ESPN 105.9 The Zone.
WRKS Pickens Jackson.
All systems go.
Live from the Whiskey 61 Lounge inside the Bank Plus studio.
This is our warning.
Live in the studio. It's the Out of Bounds Show with Bo Bounds. Streaming live worldwide on the Out of Bounds radio app. And on your radio at ESPN 105.9. All set? Let's go. The Zone.
Do I not currently have a pulse?
We are the Out of Bounds Show, ESPN 105.9 The Zone, brought to you by the Elijah Craig Barrel Pick, which is now at Briarwood Wine and Spirits. We picked it out several months ago at Heaven Hill in Bardstown, outside of Louisville, Kentucky. It's a delicious barrel pick. It will not last long, so I would go ahead and make plans or have a buddy pick up a bottle for, well, Nate's probably doing 2 bottles per. I'll ask him when he gets in here. But anyway, go ahead and make plans to drop by Briarwood Wine and Spirits, 4949 Old Canton Road, and get a bottle of the Elijah. It's perfect to sip on and share with. The whole point in this is to share with a friend and talk about the barrel pick. And we went and picked it out months ago, and it was great. And now, proof down in a bottle, real deal. I know it's going to be great. So, and it's called Bad Math. We'll tell you why. It was funny. You know, we're always having fun with it. You're out in a rick house in Bardstown, Kentucky. You're having the vibe is always fun when you're doing a private barrel pick. There's usually only about 4 to 6 people with you. And of course you have your Heaven Hill, Elijah Craig. Sylvia is the lady who runs their barrel program on site. She's fantastic. She's great. Great personality, gets it. And look, we've done this at Russell's Reserve and Four Roses. It's always fun. And I mentioned, some of y'all, I got some feedback on the Elijah Craig Heaven Hill because we just went a couple of weeks ago. This isn't the same pick. This is the one that Nate and I went several months ago. But if you go on a guy's trip or a couple's trip to Kentucky and you do some bourbon and horses or golf or whatever it is you're doing, combo, and there's great food in Louisville and Lexington, as you know, I would plan the trip around, if you go to Heaven Hill / Elijah Craig, Henry McKenna, Larceny, all the things that they do. If you go, I recommend going right around lunchtime because Heaven Hill's restaurant and bar is amazing. You know, and I don't usually have high expectations for places like that. They've gone all in. It's on the second floor of the kind of center where the welcome center that's got the merch shop and all that, where you meet Sylvia, your rep, or whoever you got that's going to take you into a rick house to do a private barrel pick. But the food is really good. And the bartenders they have there, as you can imagine, their craft cocktail list, which is driven by Heaven Hill Products, is amazing. So it's fantastic. And we had a ton of fun. And I recommend going to lunch and doing the whole thing, like either do a pre-lunch, then lunch, or doing a lunch and then post-tour. You're wearing an Elijah Craig Old Fashioned Week hat. What's going on with you? Did you do that on purpose?
You know, I did. I thought about it, and I knew that this was happening. This was all, I was conscious of all of this.
No, you weren't.
Nah, there's not a shot.
Nah,
man, but it's
but that's a good looking hat.
It is. It's my second one. I had to re-up.
Well, we'll get you, if you wear them, we'll get you as many as you want.
I wore the last one out. I'll wear this one out.
Okay.
It's a good hat.
Elijah Craig Old Fashioned, which is actually coming up either September or October, because we did a whirlwind tour last year. We did something at Taste Italian Kitchen, Philip M's, and somewhere else.
Cigars.
Maybe Martin's in Livingston. Yeah. ESPN 105.9 The Zone, the Out of Bounds show. Now, the big stories coming out of the weekend are Skip Bertman passed away, legendary coach.
Another one.
LSU baseball. Jaden Daniels and LSU are in a kind of a fight.
Yes.
DJ Pickett's going to wear number 5.
Yes.
For LSU. Jaden wore it the one year he was at LSU and won the Heisman.
Right. That's it, though.
With a 9-3 record.
Meh.
Interesting.
This number was promised by the prior staff.
That's right. Brian Kelly made this promise in recruiting, and Lane was going to
uphold.
Well, of course he was.
Yeah. You got him on campus.
He's about having that player at DB to hopefully get PBUs.
Simple.
Right?
That's simple. There was also another passing, Joe Dean Jr.
Saw that yesterday. Mississippi State alum, played basketball at Mississippi State.
Yeah.
Went on to become a graduate assistant for Rupp at Kentucky. Then would come back and coach, but then get into athletic administration and became a good AD. Had fought some health problems. His dad, Joe Dean Sr., was string music, was LSU's AD for, years prior to Skip Bertman taking over. So Joe Dean Jr. went to Mississippi State. Joe Dean Sr. was kind of part of that Bailey Howell Converse crew.
Yeah.
Coming out of the 60s and 70s. Bailey was still playing for the Celtics, but
great name. Coming
out of the, into the 70s, that they were like a mafia fraternity in a good way.
Yes.
That Converse crew, and then Joe Dean Sr. eventually got into athletic administration at LSU.
Right.
He made the hire of all hires. I mean, I don't remember who hired Skip Bertman. That was a great hire. But Joe Dean Sr., Joe Dean Sr. had not gotten it right. They had gone through Hallman, Archer, and DiNardo. I don't remember the exact order. And then Joe Dean Sr. hired Nick Saban. The rest is history.
Bob Broadhead is who hired Skip Bertman at LSU.
I remember him.
And shout out to Bull on the texting line here with another pass. And Tommy John. Iconic.
Yankees.
He is iconic.
Tommy John surgery. We talk about it all the time.
All the time.
Okay.
That surgery is probably the most well-known surgery in all of surgeries.
Oh, no doubt.
Right?
Yeah.
I don't know the name of any other
Tommy
ones.
John and ACL. How many times have I said that on the show the last 23 years?
God bless.
And now you come back from both. For decades you did not. And guys, men and women, come back from both and play for a long time.
I don't know if I want a surgery named after me or not. If it's successful, sure.
Right.
Right.
That's right.
Yeah, I don't want the flip side of that. I'm gonna opt out. I'm gonna opt out of all surgery though. I don't need that crap.
Don't need it?
No, I'm not getting hurt. The tank.
Have you ever had surgery?
Not that I can recall. I don't think
Ankle,
so.
knee, elbow, shoulder? Did you break a leg, break an ankle, break an arm?
No.
Tear a shoulder up?
Knock on wood. No, never did that.
Trying to think what else. So you've never had surgery?
Not like that. No.
Wow.
Yeah, no. Thankfully.
No, that's great.
Made it all the way through. I got ran over.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we all did. I mean, if you played sports, you got run over.
No, I'm talking about like a vehicle.
Oh, yeah, that's not a good thing. Okay, we are the Out of Bounds Show. We're brought to you by Superior Foundation for all your foundation repairs, French drains, driveway work. Superior.ms. Contact Todd Sandridge and Trey Pace today. If you have foundation issues, they are miserable. Superior Foundation, Superior.ms, and their work comes with a warranty. We'll talk Elijah Craig Bourbon coming up next with Nathan McCarty.